Okay, I'll try to remember. But if I miss, I think I will keep in my mind everything like this.
Alam ko, tuluo lang ka, tumoy ako sa kali.
Katmok lang kami sa Egidal Seals. Ay. Malungil Seals in Maripek Ladro Guyak, Malmerang Asuliw. Amos el motma kartial niya ko isak. Katengel podcast program ra the Campus Point Institute. Matmar ngugol mo mentritira gid lokyak sang gid all time. Mangartiang ngano betul aklisye ka Mr. DeBrum atra Marshall Islands hanggang Arcel hanggang director Office of National Security. Engel daw akribitar niya mletal time ang artiang Miss Cleo Pascal, non-resident senior fellow at the Campus Point Institute. I have interviewed her at one time in this very studio. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us in this program. And I'm very happy that this is to launch what has been long planned as a podcast program for the Campus Point Institute. So I have introduced you, Chris, and then I want to start by I was reviewing the document, the agenda for the National Security and Drugs Summit.
Yes.
Earlier this month in the Marshall Islands. And I want to start our talk show interview program with that. And I think and the reason for that is apparently your office, the Office of the National Security, is similar to what we have here in Palau, the National Security Coordinator's Office. I'm sure the mandate are more similar, but the session 2 of that summit that you had in the Marshall Islands are the very issues that if there's any issues of the day here in Palau, they are the very topics that are being discussed everywhere. So I want to use that as a basis as we go inside our program. And that is the ONS overview and stakeholders perspectives. It's very important that ONS overview because this is also a new office for Palau. And there's also a movement in our National Congress toward getting this office into it exists as an executive order, but the movement is to make it a law, exist by law. And so the issue right now is they're trying to look at where to place this office. As it is now, it's under the office of the president. But what I'm hearing now is that they are looking for a ministry that they can place this office in. So so with that, I'd like to just to ask you to give us the overview of the Office of National Security of the Marshall Islands, and what is it that your office is doing?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Kambes, for the invitation. It's good to be here. Also for meeting Pascal for the first time earlier today. Yes, to give you a brief overview of this Office of National Security. The framework, going back to 2024, April, the Office of National Security, through the National Security Act of 2024 was approved by the Parliament, Marshall Islands, Narijala. So this established the Office of National Security along with the National Security Council. So the National Security Council is the president and the cabinet members who are together come together as the National Security Council. So the Office of National Security is set up in a way where you have the director of national security, which is myself, who is also the advisor, national security advisor to the National Security Council and the president. And through that setup, and within this, to get our office focused on issues that are of great importance and challenge to our country, we also have the national security strategy that needs to be developed over the time, and try to work within the National Security Council to look into the what are the threats for the RMI, the Marshall Islands. You know, there are so many ways, you know, areas that we can point out to, and these are no single issues, because no matter how small you are in country, especially here in the Pacific and the Micronesia, you know, the challenges are there, you know, in your backyard. So we need to work as a team, try to work with Palau, the rest of the Micronesian countries, to look at the challenges we have, common issues, and see how you can together work. Going back to the conference you mentioned, this is the first time that we organized the conference. The issue of the illicit drugs and activities coming from drugs that were washed ashore in the Marshall Islands has become a big issue in the communities, more of a security now. So the President Hilda Sihaine, and the cabinet members have been trying to work with all the government entities, stakeholders, along with the Office of National Security, who is now the coordinator, interagency coordinator, working together with the police, the Attorney General's office. We also have the customs, the post office, postmaster. We're all partner as a security coordination unit that are working together to find a way, solutions to work with the communities, civil society. So this first summit took place during the Mayor's Conference, what we call the conference, Marshall Island Mayors Association's week conference, and we were able to work with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, of course the President's office, with the blessing of the President, and other members of the Security Coordination Unit to be part of this first summit. And what I shared with you was a result. It was a successful summit. The goal of this summit was to highlight, you know, more of an awareness to the whole country what we're facing as far as the drugs, and try to see how we can work as a team together. You know, the religious, the traditional leaders, the educators, government come together and try to solve or look for solutions.
What kind of drugs are they?
Mainly we have cocaine that were washed ashore to some of our outer islands, and some of these unfortunately were not being turned over to the law authorities, smuggled to the main centers, Majuro and Kwajal and Ibay, and then into these the dealers, drug dealers. So we don't have the services, you know, to provide. We lack that counseling. We do have, for example, just one counselor on Majuro. So we need to find a way to work as a team to see how we can deal with this new threats that we're facing in our
It's very interesting
communities.
because for Palau, the cases that about drugs coming in is through the passengers from flights, for example, like through from Hong Kong or from China, and then also through the post office. So my question is, when they are washed ashore, how is that deliberate that they just go and dump them and hope that the current will bring them to the island, or did the boat capsize and then the drug
What we've recovered are drugs that are washing ashore. Then there are also semi-submersible narco subs, also washed to the beaches. And we don't have the information or the intel to link
Right.
that to smuggling trends that we're seeing happening with the rest of the Pacific, mainly going down south to Fiji. But we know that with the partnership, of U.S., Australia, and other like-minded partners in the region, to see how we can work and try to trace more of where these drugs are coming from, how they are being, how they drift all the way from South Central America, if that's where they're coming from, or if there is traffic routes, of course, coming this way, and vessels there's a drop-off points. These boats that we're recovering, they're go-fast boats, narco subs that have 200, 300 horsepower engines.
What happens to the engines?
Engines, some of them along the way broke off. Those that made to the shore are claimed by locals. This is one of the reasons we had the summit, is to make that awareness that once you receive these, or you have drugs washing to a shore, make sure that the authorities are alerted, so that we can first try to look into the whole scenario of studying the drugs, the vessels that are washed, to see how where they're from, how we can get more of this information.
Yeah, one of the topics here is, and then I just want, if you could share some information on that, drug-related challenges across sectors in the RMI.
There are drugs-related sectors that we're talking about the capital, and areas where we see activities. Not only that, but we also have information of our own workers, involved in some of these. So this is where we want to come in and try to look into ways we can draft out policies, perhaps, see how we can make sure that if there's a drug policy for workers, something we can work out of. But these are the ways we can try to get the sectors and our office and stakeholders involved.
Is there any overlap between the issue of the deportees and any of the drug issues? And would you like to talk about the issue of the deportees?
Well, there's a big challenge also. We've seen more of our, we call it returnees, deportees, and we want to also ensure that the stigma, is not.
That's a good point.
Doesn't really affect our returnees, because our office has been assigned to work as a lead for the deportees task force.
The returnees task force.
Returnees task force as well.
So do you want to give an idea of the numbers of returnees, or?
I would say from last year we've had close to 200 returnees, deportees coming to Majuro and Ipai.
From the U.S.?
From the U.S. mainly. And it's a big challenge for us, because, as I alluded to earlier, we lack the facilities, the services. But as a starting point, this deportee task force, led by our Office of National Security, along with the Foreign Ministry, the Attorney General's Office, the police, and other stakeholders, actors in this field, coming together to work and try to find solutions. We're also having our National Training Council as part of these partners, so that we can find jobs, trainings for them, and make sure that they're contributing members of the community again.
Do they when they get off the plane? Do you know that they're coming? Do you know who is coming?
We receive information from through the U.S. We have information sharing, and we do have our office meet upon arrival members who are coming back to police.
Yeah.
Kambes, is that an issue here also with returnees?
The issues that I know of is not returnees but deportees.
Okay.
We use the two words interchange.
Right. Yeah. It's that when Palauans in the States, run into transgressions of law,
Yeah.
then they can be deported
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same.
back, and so that's also an issue. And it's more of an issue where they don't announce them who are these people and what did they do coming. It's only after that later then we get the information like, oh, who are these people? Like for example, like sex offenders or those kind of crimes that you really don't want them to be in your community. Yeah. So.
That's one of our challenges right now is, how do you accommodate those with the crimes,
Right,
as you
yeah.
mentioned, and what kind of service, if you don't have that kind of service, you need to work with your partners, try to see how we can accommodate them. We work with the law enforcement to make sure that we know where they are in the communities. But it's not easy. It's one of the challenges we have to the high risk returnees or deportees.
We have about 10 minutes remaining. But here's the question. When we talk about national security, what are the threats that we are talking about or we are looking at? If you can share.
Thank you, Kambes. That's a good question. It's one of the questions they also ask some folks back home. What is national security?
Right.
If you understand national security, then you know what are your challenges. Because it's a broad area, overlaps. They're interconnected.
Right.
All these challenges. We're talking about climate change. Our existential threat is climate change, and you have droughts. You have the rising seas. These are connected to salinity in your wells, but that's only climate change. Then you have the transnational organized crime, illicit activities. You have foreign influence. We have a lot of activities that relates to national security. Cybersecurity, it's a new threat. We lack the capacity at the moment. We are in the process of developing our technological unit, our cybersecurity capacity. So these are all new areas for us. But at the same time, when you're looking at tackling transnational crimes and malign activities, you only need to look at your neighbors to get the help. Because no one island country can tackle this challenge. When you look at climate change, you still have to rely on your partners and others in the region.
You mentioned because these are vast problems, from the local to the geopolitical. So how big is your office and where are you located?
We do have a small office. I made the analogy and I mentioned it that there is this pandanus tree, and we do have the pandanus fruit, and we call this the baby. We feed our babies magon. We call it magon. It's like a puree baby food made from the juice that you boil the pandanus and make the baby food. I mean, our office, over the 2 years that we've been in existence, we've managed to, I would use the word inundated with so many issues. We have to find a way to grow up faster and to chew on this the fruit without being boiled or so we're this baby who's been fed with all these challenges of the hard fruit to chew on, because since we open, we have to deal with a lot of the issues that are encountering. And national security, going back to national security, the term, it's very broad, and just need to, there's no crawl, walk, and run. I mentioned earlier that we've been sprinting ever since the office opened, and we have 5 people who are working with us. We have a program coordinator, we do have analyst, we do have administrator who keeps a lot of our finances and administrative work. And then also I mentioned analyst and intelligence, that we collect a lot of these information to work with our stakeholders in their agency group. So it's a commitment that we see that if you formalize it through a framework, national security law, I think it will work, but it takes time and the capacity to deal with and grow up with this kind of office. It's a good to start, but it's not going to take a small office to do it.
Yeah.
You have both Palau and Marshall's recognize Taiwan.
Yeah.
Does that present special challenges?
The geopolitical issue is there. Having Taiwan, we're grateful for the relationship with Taiwan. We've been very supportive, and it's a two-way street. Taiwan has been very great to the RMI, and we've received a lot of support through this relationship. We're also receiving a lot of capacity building trainings in this area of national security. So more awareness in our part of this office to work with the Taiwanese counterparts. We've shared so much as far as information and how we can get this office moving forward.
I know from the Palau experience, China's been very openly trying to subvert the country through the tourism sector and things like that. And there have been some ties between Marshall Islands and Palau, like with, this is all public record, that with Karian and Gina Zhu coming through here, for example. Is there increasing, you're here in Palau now, and I think one of the promising things that we're seeing is the countries talking to each other about common problems.
Yes, one thing about these smaller island countries, especially Micronesian countries, Palau and RMI, we exchange information. We see that foreign influence is one of the challenges we have. We are grateful for good partnership, one that is beneficial to both sides, whether if it's Chinese company or other countries. But it needs to be fair to the competition. We're talking about economic security, make sure that there's no smuggling, there's investment, we need the jobs. But then if there's smuggling and there's other activities, malign activities within, then that's where we come in and try to work with our partners, Palau and other countries in the region, to see how we can tackle this kind of issue with malign influence from other countries.
So how would you describe malign influence? Because I think many people, like we know, so it's a term that you hear in conferences, but not on the street. So how would you describe it?
It's a new term. For us, we have to, learn so much about malign activities, transnational. These are all interconnected, and terms that are related to activities within your country that are activities that are not normal, and it can affect the communities one way or another, may it be economic or other influence. So the issue is very sensitive in nature and involves a lot of actors within the community. So I would say that it's something that we need to work as a team, not just the Office of National Security to tackle this, but we work with different entities in the government that we are to look into information that and see how we can share and tackle this kind of activities. But it's something that is quite sensitive, and but doesn't mean that we cannot tackle it.
For a threat can also be in a form of economic security, and I'm saying that because if there's an economic security for the country, and then the people are well taken care of, does your office in that policy level, do you also provide that assessment or advisors to RMI's policymakers?
Our mandate is quite broad. Where we don't reach at the moment, as far as capacity, we work with our other interagency stakeholders, like the Ministry of Finance. They have the Financial Intelligence Unit, where we work as a team and we share information. And I know these are sensitive information that they work closely with the Attorney Generals and other entities. But our job is to come in and look at the overall national security picture and what is really a threat to the whole country, economic security. What kind of policies do we need to work with our National Security Council, the cabinet, to improve? If there's the investment, we need to do more of a background check on these companies who are investing. How are we dealing with their proxy companies, owned by local passport holders, foreign passport holders, foreign members who are holding martial legal passports. So all this we have to also work.
Do you get involved with the ship registry issues as well?
No, I think the ship registry, we work with them in a sense that we do a lot of border security and training, capacity building. Yeah.
Okay.
But and sometimes we'll share information that comes our way, as far as vessels that are registered or platforms that are registered, but not much of.
So the way you're describing it before, it's very much of a coordination.
It's a coordination office, basically. It's when you look at our National Security Act, it's basically mentioned that it's a interagency coordination office.
Right.
And we look at the old pictures. We try to look into the gaps and try to see how we can plug in the gaps, and work. That's meaning working with our different entities, government stakeholders.
Is that similar to what's in Palau? Is that similar function to the Palau National Security? Actually,
yeah,
coordinator.
I think more or less similar. Yeah. I have we're almost out of time. So let me just throw this question. I know it's not really related to your national security function, but the Palauans also have been discussing about Marshall's UBI initiative. So how has that been received by the people?
I think the UBI program is going well.
UBI, Universal Basic Income.
Yes, and led by our Ministry of Finance, our Minister of Finance, David Paul, and I think they've done a great job as far as meeting the requirement. Informing the public, working within the RMI sphere, residents. I don't think the issue maybe with and I've heard of those from outside Marshallese who are citizens who are outside, mainly in the States, for not being part of this. But overall, I think it's satisfactory.
So just to make it clear, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it's around $200 quarterly, so around $800 a year for every Marshallese from the time they're born living in the Marshall Islands. More or less?
Yeah, I think more or less. Yeah, 200. The first one was 200. No, the second payment was a little bit less, around 170 some, if I'm correct.
Okay.
And I'm hearing that the next one will go back to 200. So.
Okay.
But I would let the experts in the Ministry of Finance do the answering.
So, when did you start? When did Marshall start the program?
Almost, if I'm correct, I'm looking at the time frame. If I'm not right, I would say around almost a year and a half.
Okay. So,
and just quickly again, because coming from the outside, what I see is things that are common, and a common problem or challenge was, what do you do about people who live in the country versus people who are outside the country, which is also an issue around elections. If you live in the country or if you've been living in the U.S. for 20 years, should you all have it? So this seems to be something also that's been debated in Palau as well as Marshalls.
Well, it's been an issue in the past, and I believe the court already settled that, and it's an ongoing. It will still be an ongoing issue with voters from outside, but at the moment we have postal ballots and voters registers from outside.
And Palau as well, I think, right?
Yeah. So our editor said that we're out of time, so I thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Chris. It's been wonderful to have you and to have this conversation. And I really forgot. Just take this maybe last 2 minutes. And you're here for Palau. Here in Palau for what? What brought you here to the island?
I might need Cleo to give me more of the. But it's a Philippine Seas.
So it's a Sasakawa USA
funded
event.
USA.
It's an interesting idea. It's about Philippines neighbors, because the Philippines is under a lot of attack, as we know, a lot of pressure coming from one of its neighbors in particular. And because Palau is a country that recognizes Taiwan, it's a place where delegations from the Philippines can come, from Taiwan, from US, from Palau, from RMI, and just talk about some of the common problems. So this is, I think, a place where, because Palau recognizes Taiwan, it gives a venue for finding commonalities and solutions in a less politically stressed environment.
Yeah.
I believe that even RMI being at the other end of Micronesia, we are in the Pacific. We are still affected, by what's going on in this Philippine Seas and Taiwan Strait issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Teman sa ultragal terung seigi yung el sil mol mutur ang edel urior tirka ngar belaw tirka mga adu. So tir mar adra syabal mar adra huriping mar adra mereka lang ngar belaw masada tawa security ra belur belaw maikal bebera belur ngar maorit kit atau mal mereka sulir. So thank you. Every time you come to Palau, let me know so we can have this
Thank you so
discussion
much.
more.
Thank you, Kambes. And this is for the first podcast, and I hope I'm doing okay. Say hello and Ali to all my friends here in Palau, also all the families back home.
Thank you. Okay.